Hey
Oh,
everyone, this is a live update, the first update that we've done live anyway. I doubt there are many of you because it was so sudden, but it's okay. Once again, this is Nova from Beer and Cigarettes Radio. I'm with our guest from last week, Timothy Bowen. We're going to
hey.
share a few ghost stories that we've each collected since the ending of last week's show.
Sweet. Who goes first?
What do you got? I'm curious now that
Um,
you said this.
Rather interesting coincidences, actually. That are for actually two people that I'm close friends with. One of whom I went to high school with, and one that I just know from a long time ago. Both came to me after the radio show, mentioning the fact that they had shadow people experiences. They saw shadow people moving in the corners of their rooms, or out in the corner of their yard at
Was this
night,
during the show?
or during, or very close to afterwards.
Wow.
I mentioned it to my friend who saw them in her backyard, and she said, I didn't get to listen to your show, but I saw something, this little shadow person moving in my backyard. It was weird, and my other friend has just been noticing a lot of activity around her. One of which is the shadows moving when they really shouldn't be, among other weirder things.
Yeah, because sometimes they only appear as like little balls or little blobs or blurs of shadow. They don't always
Right, or
make
shadow
a
moving in a
humanoid
in a
shape.
way
Yeah.
that just shouldn't work. Yeah.
There was a Ghost Hunters episode a few years back, I think, where they were messing around in some prison or something, and it's really funny. They they found something, but
Mhm.
they didn't really see it at first. It was just a shadow across the camera lens. And my
Uh
roommate
huh.
at the time, he was like, "That's not bullshit. That's a shadow person." I used
Uh
to
huh.
see that crap all the time.
Mhm.
So very
Nice.
interesting. I got a story from Sandra Escobar from our Facebook today,
Mhm.
and she gave me permission to share this story that she had, and then I have one from my wife that's pretty extensive.
Hmm.
You guys are gonna like this. First one from Sandra, and she said to me in the message, it started one night while I was babysitting my sister, and all of a sudden I heard the garage door opening. I asked my brothers and cousin if they opened it, and they said no. Then she went downstairs and it was open. Her brothers closed it and they went into the kitchen to talk about what had just happened when they all felt like something um they all felt something.
Mhm.
And her cousin and brother both said that they saw something around the corner of their baby sister, and their dad walked in from around the corner, and he went into the garage, and it was open. She swears that the door was closed, and that he, her dad, then walked in, shut the light off, and whatnot. She said she also remembers once when they were all outside, and she looked up at her mom on the second floor and
Mhm.
saw her baby sister standing there looking down. Right behind her was a dark male shadow.
Whoa.
Yeah.
There. Are these recent occurrences
I don't think
or
that
just
one was
past occurrences?
recent. Yeah. And from my wife, I'll just read what she wrote because she wrote uh, quite a long story. When it comes to things that go bump in the night, my family is no stranger to them. My mother's family has always been deeply spiritual and both superstitious. So growing up, whenever we spoke about the other side, it was stated as fact and was never perceived as anything else. My mother was Native American, born to the Utes tribe in Durango, Colorado, and my grandfather was an immigrant from Mexico. Both had their own experiences when it came to the spiritual realm. So whenever the topic of ghosts, angels, spirits, demons, etc. was discussed, they shared knowledge. They shared knowledge. It was not something that was considered taboo at the table. Discussion was welcome. Children were shooed away from the table when it was discussed. In fact, we were welcomed, but only if we behaved ourselves and remained quiet. The spiritual realm was not something to be toyed with, my grandmother warned, and a good dose of fear and respect is exactly what they thought they needed. After all, not all lessons can be learned in the classroom, but it was this lesson I would carry for the rest of my life. When I was a child, around 6 or 7, a huge black cloud of discord hung over our home. I remember that time vividly because at times anger and tension was so thick that stepping into our home was like stepping into a room full of smog. The adults were arguing that night, and it seemed to us that whenever they argued that loud, the weather somehow coincided with our chaotic household. My grandmother had just put my sister and I in bed, and my cousin was sleeping over. A fierce wind blew outside and shook the windows, making them rattle. Outside, it was like the hand of God was shaking the trees from side to side, and we could hear the tree limbs snapping like toothpicks. We were scared of the storm, but what happened next made us terrified. A very real heaviness descended on the room, and we froze. We were not alone. In that instant, I swear my heart stopped. There on the window was the shadow of a man with horns and a grinning mouth. Somewhere in the room I could hear my sister whimper, but instead of crying out for our mother, we stayed in bed, too terrified to even breathe. Instead, I prayed and prayed and prayed, reciting the words our grandmother had taught us since we could speak, and willing the monster, in quotes, to go away. Quote, unquote, our Father, to art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, unquote. I closed my eyes tightly and repeated the words like a mantra. How long it remained, I'm not sure. While I was praying, I fell asleep, and I assumed my sister and my cousin did too. The next morning, my sister and I could only guess that it was prayer that saved us, and whenever arguments that had been lingering over our household dissipated with the rain and wind. But whether it was a demon, monster, or shadow person, I'll never know. Yet to this day, I've never felt such a heaviness or such a fear as I did on that night. Wow, huh?
I've had experiences similar to that in my own life, but that was usually when I went looking for them.
Yeah. It's insane.
Yeah. It does drive home the point that I would like to make, that it doesn't really matter what spirituality you follow. Your intent on that belief structure, on that power, is what allows it to work.
Oh. There was another thing I wanted to bring up. There was a Coast to Coast show, I think last night. And not last night, but it was a podcast I was listening to at work. And it was on demon possession. And the guy talking, he was obviously very Christian and whatnot, but there's this lady involved with him, and she was purportedly possessed. And all this crazy crap started happening. It started when she started calling into his radio show, because they did like a church radio show type of deal. But and even though she was possessed, even though he tried to command whatever to leave her, and eventually invited her to stay with him and his wife to help her get better, and all this crazy paranormal phenomena started happening. The demon, according to him, never mentioned an allegiance ever, not once. So I've just kind of found that interesting. I'm not going to go into it too much, what happened to this guy, because it would probably take as long as it took in the show, which is like 2 hours. Oh no.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that brings to mind another. Oh gosh, I lost my train of thought for a moment there.
Oh, that's terrible,
Shite.
Tim.
No, that's a really interesting story though. But people can manifest things too though.
Yeah,
We
that is
have
true.
power, we have spiritual presence just like ghosts and demons and what have you. And if it mentions no allegiance, sometimes something traumatic can occur in a person's life that causes a dormant spiritual power to manifest. And it won't. The only way to get over that is to stop that, or to, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I think there was a movie about that.
In fact, isn't that what a real poltergeist is? It's when someone's own spiritual energy, their own psychic abilities, go way out of control.
Sometimes, other times it's actually a spirit doing it. I know people who have had things actively moving around their house on a regular basis from spirits. But then again, they also claimed that the spirits only manifested these sorts of abilities when they were in the house, which leads me to believe that they were more like manifestations of these people's psychic wavelengths.
Well, and
interacting,
then you hear about certain spirits being tied to certain locations because, for whatever reason, there are a million of them.
Right.
But something else I did want to bring up. It is. I always think of the spiritual realm as sort of like a fabric. Just as you can record a message in a videotape, or chisel something in stone or paint a picture, you can do so with energy.
Precisely. I've seen that happen in both sentient conscious form and in just a weird feeling that is placed in an area by some passing spirit.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I'm really sensitive to it. Actually, I can I get hit by it all the time by strangers. I can feel negativity or positive, whatever.
Or when you walk
around
past
here,
a bad pet store.
Around here, it's mostly negativity because we're right next to DC.
Ugh. Or when you walk past a bad pet store. You ever walk past one of those really shitty pet stores that really needs to get closed down, but they somehow pass under the radar?
I haven't in a long time.
I passed by one at this flea market that's in Kansas City, and it was like a wave of pain and etc. It's hard to explain to people, you know what I mean, yeah, but you can tell it originates from somewhere else,
All right, well, I think that just about does it. Little closing thought, if you got one.
Same as last time. Be careful and mindful of what you do in the spiritual realm.
Be careful of the things that go bump in the night.
Yeah.
All right. Well, be sure to catch us next week on Sunday at 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific. Get off your TVs and listen to us chat. You can catch us at www.beerandcigarettesradio.com, and you can check us out on Facebook. Just search Beer and Cigarettes Radio. You'll find us really easily. And you can check us out on YouTube as well. All these little podcasts and live shows get recorded and get thrown up there. All right. Thanks for sticking with us in this update. I'm Nova, and my guest is
Tim Bowen. Peace.
Peace.